the machine, showing you how we set the machine up. If I have the job setting, if I come up to the machine, if I look at the menu, I have a job selection button here, and in the job selection, I have saved a number of different jobs. Now, depending on the model of the machine you're using, the screen's going to look a little bit different. A more current machine will have a colored screen, but still the same precept applies. You'll have a job selection. I'm going to find the job that I want, and I know the job that I want is job 9. And if I touch the information button, it tells me that I'm pulling an 11-inch from the third station, and I'm pulling 195 millimeter piece from station either 1 or 2. I'm using a number 10 envelope, and it's doing a C-fold into the envelope. Again, depending on the model of your machine, it's going to look slightly different, but basically it gives you the same basic information. So I found my job, I touch OK, and then I'm simply going to touch the start button. This part, it's going to continue processing the mail. For demonstration purposes, we're going to go ahead and touch the clear button and clear the machine. Now, this particular machine just has a simple drop stacker. Depending on your machine, you can get a stacker option, a side exit option. There's a number of different options you can get put on the machine. The manual is right here. And one thing that we do for our customers is we always write our job code right here, so we can always get into the job menu at any point in time. Any of these machines, it's very easy to get into the job menu and switch the job to make it correct for your particular job. Always have the manual on hand. Actually, Hadave, the manufacturer of these machines, has done a very, very good job of putting a manual together to show you exactly what to do. There's a section in here on job programming. There's a section in here on the counter. Basically, all the different facets you need. Another thing that's incredibly important is back here is what works in the machine. I'm not sure how well this is going to come out on the video, but if you use the wrong envelope, this machine will not work. One thing that's very important to remember is you cannot use pressure seal or peel and stick envelopes in an inserting machine. It must be a glue seal envelope. If you don't use the right envelopes, you will not have success with an inserter. Generally speaking, an envelope like this is a good envelope. An inch to an inch and a half flap. It is a diagonal seam envelope, and it is what we call a die cut envelope. These envelopes generally work the best. If you can use other envelopes, but use them at your own peril. Side seam envelopes are more difficult in a machine of this type. I've selected my job. Let's talk through a couple of things. Let's say I need to create a new job. So first what I'm going to do is, I did not plan this like I needed to. I'm going to come into my job menu, and the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to delete a job I no longer need. I no longer need job number 8, so I'm going to delete that. And now I'm going to create a job. I select my job number. Now again, depending on your version of your machine, the screens are going to look a little bit different, but the concept is all the same. Whenever you see this little icon here, that's to set up my envelope. To set up my envelope, I touch Edit, and I can choose the dimensions of the envelope that I use. Now, when they use these dimensions, you'll see that they're all in millimeters. The reason we use millimeters are a heck of a lot more accurate. If I'm using a 4 1/8 envelope, what is that decimally? Well, if I use metric, I can use the metric system. Right here, there's a little measuring tape. I can just lay my envelope on here, and as I look, I see that that envelope is right at 105 millimeters. And that's exactly what it defaults to here. When I go to 105 millimeters, it defaults to a number 10 envelope. Now, one thing that a lot of people get confused, when you look at an envelope, what they care about is they don't care about the distance from here to here, they care about the distance from here to here. This is what matters on the machine, is this distance here. Not this distance, but this distance. Yes, there is a limit to the width of the envelope you can use. 9.5 inches is as wide as they go. As tall as you can go is 6 1/8. No, yes, 6 inches is as tall as you can go. You can go 9.5 wide, 6 inches tall. That's as tall as you can go on these machines. Nothing taller will work, nothing wider will work. Now, the other thing that's important is when I am inserting into an envelope, The specifications always ask that my envelope has a 1/2 inch on either side of my mail piece. So if I'm going to fold an 8.5 inch piece into an envelope, I need a 9.5 inch envelope. Now again, when the machine is inserting, it only measures this distance here. So I've selected my envelope here, and I've told it I want a number 10. The next thing I'm going to go to is over to what I'm putting in it. This little paper icon is telling me what I'm putting into the envelope. The first icon with the multiple papers is going to tell me how many pieces I put in from each envelope. Now currently this is designed to take one piece from each drawer. I'm going to go ahead and, for just illustrative purposes, I'm going to take number 2. And by the way, if you look here, I can pull more than a single sheet from an envelope. On this particular model, I only can pull a maximum of 3 from a single station. Right now, I'm going to turn station 2 off, so you'll see station 1 is pulling something and station 3 is pulling something. Touch OK. Go over to the next icon. This is where I'm going to set up the dimensions of each piece. Right now, if you see feeder number 1 is set up for a number 9 envelope. I actually know I've pre-measured my piece, and this is the piece that I'm putting in my station number 1, and I pre-measured this, and this is 95 millimeters. So I'm going to set this for 95 millimeters, and I'm going to touch OK. Oh, I forgot to change to double check my feeder 3, and my feeder 3 is set for an 11-inch piece, which is what I'm using. So I'm using a 95 millimeter piece and an 11-inch piece, which is 279 millimeters. If you work with these machines very long, you're very quick to recognize those dimensions. I'm going to touch OK. The next little button here, that handle is to link 2 trays together. So I could link trays 1 and 2 together if I chose, so that when tray 1 empties, it goes to tray 2 and goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. All right, for this particular situation, I'm not going to do that. This next button, you say, what in the world is this? This is for hand feed. So although this machine will only pull 3 pieces from a station, when I come back over to the back side of this machine, I can use the hand feed option. If I look inside here, there's a little switch. One side says auto, the other side there's a picture of a paper and a hand. If I put it over here, whatever I put into the machine's going to grab and take. Over here, it just tries to separate and take one piece. So in our present application, we're just trying to take one piece and put it in the envelope and go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and close that up. We're going to come back over here. We're going to touch OK. The next icon, the folded paper icon, is where I set up the actual fold that I'm going to use. The single piece is for a flat paper. The V is for a half fold. This is for what we call a C or letter fold. This is what we call a double parallel. Double parallel will be for like an 8.5 by 14. And then the final one here is a Z fold. Depending on the machine you're using on different models, on the larger machines you'll see other options for bottom address and things of that nature. These smaller machines do not have that option. Now you say, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm select the C fold or letter fold. I'm going to touch at it, and it asks me what dimensions I want to put in here. You say, how in the world do I know how I want to fold it? Well, if you notice this first here, this is asking for the dimension of your address panel. So for example, in this case here, if this is my address panel, what I want to do is I want to fold my document. Fold it the way I want to have it folded. After I folded it, I'm going to open up my measuring stick. I'm going to lay it on my measuring stick and determine what that dimension is. Now it probably can't be seen on the screen, but the way I folded this, that first dimension is 90 millimeters. So what I'm going to do then, let me just double check real quick, make sure that I have it correct. Yes. So what I'm going to do then is I will then come into here and make that measurement 90 millimeters. And then I will make this, and then, so then I generally make this one 100 millimeters more than this one here. So I would make this one 190. I touch OK. I touch OK. This is my double document feed. If I'm doing like an invoice or something like that, and I want to make sure that Ben only gets Ben's and Mary only gets Mary's, I can turn on double document so it measures each piece and makes sure only one piece is going into each envelope. I can turn it on, which that's where right now this is on station 1. Let me go to station 3. I can turn it on, I can turn it off. If you see the little dot in the circle, that's turned on. There it's turned off. So if I want to make sure I only get one, I turn it on. If I don't care, I turn it off. Now, one thing that's important when we look at station number 1, a lot of times we're putting a return envelope in. I never double document detect on a return envelope. And the reason I don't is return envelopes give a lot of false reads. It's just not worth the hassle for the infrequency of it actually pulling a double return envelope. So I'm going to touch OK. Over here, I can actually go in and name the job so that I know what job 8 is. For right now, I'm not going to name the job. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. Save job. It tells me the document does not fit in the envelope. I can either go back and try to make changes and make it fit, or I can just say I don't care. I want it to continue. In this case, I'm going to tell it to continue. At this point, I'm done creating my job. I get out. I touch the escape to get out. And now I'm going to go ahead and tell it to go. And so let's see how it works. And I forgot to fill my hopper. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and fill my hopper. You can notice this little lever here. This switches that hopper open. I can put my material in, put this down, and now it's ready to run. You'll see that this one up here, basically I'm going to do it the same way. One thing that's very, very important, you need to make sure your side guides are tight. If your side guides are not tight, it has a tendency to pull the piece crooked. If it pulls the piece crooked, you're going to have problems later on in the machine. So always make sure your side guides are tight. Just give them a little tap to make sure your side guides are tight before you go. Okay? At this point, I'm going to tell the machine to go now that I've filled my feeders. I'm going to just put one through and tell it to stop. I'm going to look in here and make sure that it's what I want. Yep, I've got the 2 pieces like I want. Looks like it's going to be all right. Let me run a few pieces. A couple of other things I just want to mention as we're here. One thing is, how do I put my materials in? For my envelopes, if you look right here, you'll see that it actually shows you how the envelope goes in. It shows you the window down, shows you the flap up, and the dotted line means the flap is underneath. So it's always going in, basically the flap towards the back, the flap down. Okay? Flap towards the back, flap down is the way this machine feeds. Now again, as I mentioned, you've got to make sure your piece is going in straight. If your piece doesn't go in straight, you're going to end up with problems. Usually the biggest thing that happens when you don't put things in straight is you end up with a crash in the middle of the machine. It's trying to stuff it and things aren't lining up correctly, it's not going to go in the envelope. So, again, make sure things are straight. Make sure that you're putting your material in correctly in order to get the results that you're looking for. Generally speaking, when I'm putting this in, whatever I put in first is what's going to end up being the first thing that people see in the envelope, if that makes sense. So, in other words, if I want them to see this when they open the envelope, if I want this to be on the front side of the envelope, then I have to put this leading edge up. I'm going to need to put it into the machine like this. In this particular application, we want the white out, so we're putting the white up, so the white is towards the outside. That's a basic, quick, and rough explanation of how to run these machines. There's probably other questions that I could answer and a lot of details I could go into. Matter of fact, there's one other detail I am going to cover real quick. This is how I open the machine. I lift this lever, this opens up. Right here's where my envelopes are going into the envelope. I can pull this down so this opens up. And I'm just going to actuate this with my finger. You can see how those little fingers go in and open up the envelope. The piece of paper comes through, gets shoved into the envelope, and it goes out and through. A couple things you need to be careful of is these little fingers right here. They have to be lifting that envelope. If they do not lift that envelope, you're going to have trouble getting your product into it. So, for example, if I set this out here, I'd end up with issues because it's outside the envelope. If I push it right here, that's too close to the edge. It's going to create problems. I need to have it inside the envelope. I want to have it as close to the edge as I can where it consistently opens up the envelope. Sometimes you're going to need to make adjustments depending on your envelope, depending on how the machine wears. You'll need to make adjustments to that. Trying to think what else I should cover here. These are your brushes. This is what actually seals the envelope. These will get dirty from time to time. You'll need to take them out. Very simple. Simply push on the center button. It pops out. Take it to a sink and wash it with simple soap and water. Again, we're using water-soluble glue, so you don't need to really use any harsh chemicals or anything like that. Do not use bleach on these. Another thing that people talk about is, well, what do I need to put in there? Is that really just blue water? Is there something special about the sealing solution? The sealing solution that we sell here at Southwest Mailing is a sealing solution that has an antibacterial, it has an antifungal, it has a detergent. So what do those things do for you? Number one, it helps break down the glue so it seals better. Number two, it keeps garbage out of your sealer. So it helps your sealing solution a lot better. Matter of fact, under our maintenance agreements, if you're not using the sealing solution, we will not certify your sealer. Depending on what part of the world or country you're in, you might be able to use your tap water and get by just fine. We're in Las Vegas, Nevada. Our water is absolutely horrible. It destroys machines. Do not use tap water in your machine if at all possible. If you can't use sealing solution, at least go to the store and get a bottle of distilled water. Distilled water is a whole lot better than any tap water you would use in your machine. I highly recommend using sealing solution. It's more than food coloring in the water, at least ours is. It has products in there that help it to seal better. There's probably 101 other things I could go through. That's a down and dirty, quick explanation of how to run these machines. Thanks for watching. Hope to talk to you soon.